A world stopped in time, where one's feet are nimble, yet with each step, the distance never closens. No matter the yearning of one's mind to move on, the heart ceases to fuel motivation. Desolate and barren, looking on towards a world of vibrance. Seen, but not a part of. This is one's eternity. I'm sure we've all had moments where the world has lost its shine. Periods where the road of life was traversed lethargically in wonder of the point in it all. Or perhaps not. For as long as one can remember, this is how life has always been. A state of unknowing for what to do or even where to go. Perhaps an unbeaten path of isolation feels much more in tune with the feelings of one who seeks stagnation. An unmoving, unrelenting stillness which moves life with empty steps. For Orihara Kohei, this path of tone is one he has walked for years. The passing of who he held dear and the separation from the one who has nurtured him has left his spirits weak, malleable to the forces of life. The thing is, on the surface from day to day, Kohei is fairly lively and upbeat, of course in his signature teasing manner. He has friends he greets and talks to with glee, even involving himself and willingly helping out people he comes across. It's a school life he himself describes as perfect, only to then go home alone, spend his time with activities he holds only a single sentence of attachment for, sleep, and repeat the same motions day in and out. Hardly even able to get by without the help of his childhood friend Nagamori. Not even he can see the lingering blues peek out of his behaviors. It seems that only mean-spirited pranks that oftentimes cruel fill that void. Even if it's simply quick-to-fade satisfaction. It's not as if he has lost his empathy or isn't aware of what he's doing. In fact, he can sympathize with and does help those he comes across. It's just these hedonistic, impulsive acts are where the oxymoronic feeling of numbness subsides, if only briefly. As if disconnected from everything around him, he takes life itself in a joking manner, hiding away from his empty reality. What that life brings is one of stagnation, moving on ever slowly, meaning to the world around him seen in monochromatic shades. For someone in such a state, this feeling of hopelessness rules over their mind. Pushed by a lingering sadness, they stray further and further from who they once were. Further from the connections they made. Social withdrawal is a dark circumstance, much akin to finding oneself submerged in quicksand. Any attempts to escape alone seem insurmountable. For what if an attempt to resist, one ends up sinking deeper? What if the effort of screaming out is wasted when no one's there? Much less one willing to lend an ear to those pleas. It's these doubts and uncertainties that keep one in place. When stuck, those efforts seem futile. That instead it's for the best to sit and wait for someone to cross by and take notice. However, by doing so, one slowly will sink further out of society's grasp, only making it harder to get out. Like a snake eating its own tail, it's a problem that exacerbates itself. By self-isolating, social skills fade, bringing a surge of anxiety and uncertainty with each social encounter. ergo making it more difficult to face others, which only eases continued withdrawal, eventually leading to an existence fading from the public eye, first forgotten by those who only knew of them, to casual friends who once again become acquaintances. Then, worried about the dejection from broken bonds, continues to withdraw further. Does this sound familiar? Once all hope is lost, they are whisked away, forever trapped in that state of mind. With nothing to bind them, are sent away to live that reality for what seems like an eternity. For depression isn't something one can break out of easily. The prose itself hardly, if ever, makes direct reference to it. Like depression, it can be very, very subtle, hiding in the back of one's mind, influencing decisions whilst unbeknownst to its host. Much how like it lies, tricks, and twists one's perception under a polychromatic filter to keep things the same. Because I'm happy, nothing should change. After all, it could be worse. Just live life like I always have. Why? 'Cause I don't need anything else. Such monologues may not even be conscious, yet nevertheless is a factor driving one further from society. That life is one built to fall if things continue like they always have. While one may be involved with the world around them on the surface, when any amount of weight tests these bonds, they snap. So what is it that truly connects them? This is a problem Kohei truly suffers from. The weight he places on his relationships at first are taken for granted, oblivious to the feelings of others and even himself. It's again not because he lacks empathy, but because he has a hard time accessing it from his view of the world. Emotionally and mentally, he is lost, and the solution takes a twisted form to fill that emptiness. He continues to not only look towards the past for a source of warmth he can never feel again, but also an empty future as a result of hinging his happiness on that past. But from this, he acknowledges something else that had been filling the void, something he just couldn't see. All this time, it had been his time with others. The story begins with his walk into the life of various people, where he started to question his relationship with Nagamori, ran into the new transfer student, Nanase, found Satomura with a lonely and saddened mien, took interest in an upperclassman and enjoyed being in the company of Mio. In meeting all of them, his world once again gained feelings worth conveying. Knowing what he has to lose, sought to affirm these relationships. However, that brought a problem of its own. Once he feels that connection, wishes this happiness could last forever. But as he learned before, nothing in fact will. It's this that reminded him of his youth and the tragic loss that taught him so. After all these years, once again fearful of being taken to that far-out place, he withdraws, once more stuck in the sand. But unlike before, he understands the warmth bonds can bring. All this time, he has slowly been forging them one by one. So instead of standing around waiting for eternity to take him, remembering these cherished people wanted to better himself, be a better person and stand tall in their hearts. Fighting against eternity's call, Kohei set out to leave his mark. At times, the world may feel as if it's come to a standstill, in hopes that a snapshot of one's happiest moment will be their portrait of emotion. However, no matter how much one tries to keep the past, time will continue to flow, leaving a disparity between oneself and society. How many people have glanced at such a sight, standing in the same spot, never moving as their heart remains frozen in place? Some are at the edge, lamenting their stillness, though there are people who can and will lend a hand. To get pulled out of the sand, one not only needs to call out, but put in the genuine effort to improve oneself. Not every attempt will bear fruit, but as long as they are made, eventually with enough effort, one will bloom. It's the people and deep connections we make that give the world its vibrant colors. These connections are our anchors to the here and now, solidifying the ground we stand on and the path on which we will walk. One takes a look at depression without ever baring its head, never making it too obvious by letting the underlying behaviors of its characters allude to it instead. As an allegory, Eternity fits the mold to a realistic degree. Who knows how many people for years wander through life thinking a dull shine on many of its beauties is normal, that since it's always been this way, that's how it should be. It remains an allegory, not hinging on typical depictions of major depression, instead conveying the symptoms that remain unseen and unknown even within, which can make it difficult. It can be scary, unnerving on what to work on, or even if you should in the first place. In that dark spot, seeing a road, especially the supposed correct one, is difficult. Even if effort is made, how would you know you're going in the right direction? Even lifting a finger can feel as if it has taken up all of one's energy. But moving on bit by bit is what will change things in the end, even if it's one step, one finger at a time. To our misfortune, it's true the happiness we feel will fade as all things will. If life is perpetual while stuck looking back towards the past, then a future one could create exists right there, however would go unseen. That's why it's best to look forward and appreciate the new happy times you have to work towards, no matter how hard life tries to hold you back. That's why, no matter the circumstances, what reminds us we are alive in the here and now is the connections and pure bonds we make. Sometimes those bonds are found too late. Other times it's hard to genuinely reciprocate another side or are simply unaware. But to acknowledge that is what gives strength and certainty to a brighter and sustainable future. It's not the snapshot of emotion we once had, nor the quick satisfaction we may find day to day, but the slow yet meaningful build of everlasting feelings. That is the power of bonds, and the need to avoid that dreadful eternity. And with that, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Later.